This is video 2 from Thomas Burgoyne's book, The Light of Egypt, The Science of the Soul and the Stars. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Chapter 4 of Burgoyne's book, which is entitled Mediumship, Its Universal Nature, Laws, and Mysteries. In this chapter, Thomas Burgoyne ponders the question, what is mediumship, and who are the mediums? I found this particularly interesting because I myself am a medium. Burgoyne, who claimed to be in contact with the exalted minds of who he called the Brotherhood of Light, says he asked this question of these initiated masters of occult science. And the answer he received was, everything is mediumistic, and every atom is a medium for the expression of spiritual force. God alone is the great controlling spirit. Throughout the vast infinitude of the universe, the spiritual and material worlds are intimately intertwined, so much so that it is difficult to separate them. Modern science, according to Burgoyne, holds that everything begins and ends with matter, and that matter is confined to the domain of material forces and forms on the plane of manifestation. Because of this, modern scientists do not consider the unknowable or imponderable. Burgoyne says, however, that the real starting point of all true science is within the spiritual realm, the causal plane. This plane sweeps downward through the whole universe of matter. In matter, it recognizes all the different attributes and manifestations of the one divine force in every form of creation. From here, its decisions return to and again ultimate in the realm of spirit. Divinity is unity, and the two great attributes of the divine soul coalesce as matter and spirit in the universe of manifested being. This is the duality of life. Matter is visible, it is solidified spirit, the passive or negative principle in a concrete, condensed, or material form. Spirit is the movable, ever active, positive principle in motion, and between these two states there ramifies every grade of being. Matter ranges and transforms itself from the lowest, dense state of the mineral upward to the aerial and invisible gases, terminating in the universal ether. In this refined condition, the active and positive principles of divinity become united and are transformed into creative force. Therefore, the universal ether contains within itself all that is, was, or ever will be. Burgoyne concludes that the student of spiritual philosophy must thus understand the following principles. 1. The universe is one mighty, inconceivable medium, and deity, the controlling and omnipotent spirit. 2. Love becomes the medium of wisdom, or in other words, the passive becomes the medium of the active state, while matter is and must be the absolute medium of mind. 3. The passive nature of the divine soul is the only means whereby the active spirit of divinity can manifest itself, and upon this basis rest all the mysteries of the cosmos. This is divine love. 4. The universal will, which is utilized by the imperial soul of man, is the one true center of all magical and spiritual power manifested upon the earth. Burgoyne says that man is the great pivot around which revolves every phase of magical, magnetic, and mental phenomena. Burgoyne writes that mediumship is defined as that state of sensibility which, though found pure and natural in some individuals, has been artificially developed in others. In this state, these mediums are able to contact invisible intelligences and other powers, both physical and mental. Burgoyne explains this is possible because the odyllic sphere or magnetic aura of the medium has received a degree of sensitivity that is compatible with these forces and other powers. A medium, then, is a person or object in whom the capacity of reception and transmission is so fully evolved as to become of practical value in eliciting phenomena. All humans in their natural state have these abilities to a certain degree, some much more so than others. Thus, Burgoyne says mediumship is not a spiritual gift, but the natural state of a human soul that has realized its true potential. Just as our external organism is governed and controlled by absolute and eternal laws, so is the internal constitution governed by transcendental laws. These laws constitute the science of the soul. This knowledge can help us perceive the action and interaction of the two great planes of existence. Spirit blends with matter in the brain and nervous system of the human being. These form an astromagnetic link of connection between the two worlds of cause and effect. Burgoyne says that the pulsating soul of the central spiritual sun descends through every sphere of creation, deep down into the depths of matter, and through all of these one eternal and harmonious chain of spirit mediumship prevails. Each plane depends upon the next plane above, and each, in its rotation, transmit the grosser portions to the planes below for its sustenance. He suggests that those students of the occult who wish to develop their spiritual possibilities live on a purely vegetable diet because, quote, the eating of flesh attracts the soul to the animal kingdom and degrades the higher senses, end quote. He also advises that humans who live in close, unhealthy, and densely populated towns and are surrounded by a group of sickly or selfish-minded people will become subject to the very lowest planes of spiritual activity. These conditions, he writes, often form the very hotbeds of error, spiritual and mental, and can evolve into obsession and wickedness. Conditions such as these make spiritual progress toward mediumship especially difficult. Mediumship is governed by well-defined laws and is subtle and intricate in its different egress, forms, and phases. Burgoyne says it is beyond the grasp of the ordinary mind, and its ramifications and the results of its actions are as unlimited as the infinite. However, he attempts to outline its more prominent and apparent forms. He divides the general laws of mediumship into two general classes, that of the controlling force and that of the mediumistic instrument. Initiates call these the laws of transmission and reception. The laws of the controlling force, the laws of transmission, are activity, positiveness, and attraction. The laws of reception are passivity, sensitiveness, and affinity. Man, according to his state, assimilates the specific grade of life essence from the universal force, which corresponds exactly to the quality and development of his soul. As man ascends higher in the scale of spiritual development, he becomes the recipient of finer essences. The coarser atoms are repelled and transmitted to less perfect organisms. This transmission goes on until the lowest state of humanity is reached, and from there the life essence is transmitted to the sub-mundane realms of life, which become the mediums for the expression of the surplus spiritual forces rejected by man. This primal life force in its original purity contains all the grades of spiritual nutriment for every form of existence in the universe. Burgoyne also delved into a discussion on the more prominent forms of mediumship of his time, keeping in mind that this book was published in 1899. First, he describes the mediumship of spiritualism. In so doing, he distinguishes between a trance medium and a physical medium, noting that it is the brain conformation and magnetic temperament of the body that determines the mediumship form. Because both of these can only be obtained in the passive state, however, he says both tend toward the destruction of individuality and willpower, leading to the danger of the medium becoming a slave to those who are in control. This is because the destruction of the human will by subjection to spiritual intelligences is, in his opinion, the greatest curse of mediumship. He writes that a medium that stands on the public platform and is supposed to be controlled by some disembodied intelligences is, in 9 cases out of every 10, in fact under the psychological influence of the audience, which, centering upon the sensitive organism of the medium, produces a trance state. When this happens, the words of the medium are harmonized with the majority of the minds present in the crowd, and the thoughts of individuals in the audience are what truly are reproduced. Clearly, Burgoyne does not have much respect for the orthodox spiritualist type of mediums who purport to receive inspiration from the spirit world. He states that spiritualists should learn the fact that mediums who can be controlled by a spirit can be equally controlled by a living person, and that of all places, the public platform is the least likely spot to be the center of high spiritual inspiration which emanates from ascended human souls. These forms of mediumship Burgoyne terms psychometry and clairvoyance. How do these forms of mediumship work? Burgoyne explains that a person during his life possesses an active and potent mind. When the individual passes on into the next realm, he leaves behind within the spaces of the astral light very powerful thought forms or psychic thought embryos, which are the earth karma of the human soul. Under certain conditions, the earth karma of disembodied souls can be and is contacted by those still living. When a trance speaker comes into magnetic rapport with these thought forms within the astral karmas of the disembodied, a semi-transfer of identity takes place, and he seems to exist in some previous age. Burgoyne says that esoteric Buddhists and others of the same school of thought attribute this to reawakened memory or a recollection of past lives and experiences. Burgoyne rejects this theory and states that the past experiences are not those of the medium, but those of individuals who belong to the same spiritual state of life and who possessed, when upon the earth, a similar mental and magnetic temperament as the medium. Burgoyne then summarizes and compares the conflicting theories of Buddhistic theosophy on the one hand and spiritualism on the other regarding the nature and sources of those invisible forces. He says the spiritualist as a rule believes that such phenomena are due wholly to the action of disembodied human souls or the possibility of other intelligences than those of humanity. The theosophist, on the other hand, denies the possibility of such a course, except in the case of the Mahatmas or advanced masters, or with vicious human elementaries. These individuals hold that all the various forms and phases of spiritualistic phenomena are produced by one or more of the following agencies, either singly or combined. 1. Elemental spirits turned spooks. 2. Human elementaries, the lost souls of depraved mortals. 3. Disembodied shells, the lifeless forms of disembodied mortals. And 4. The mesmeric or hypnotic influence of living individuals. Burgoyne offers the opinion that the actual truth is midway between these two extremes. He describes each of these four forces. Elemental spirits or spooks are part of an innumerable class and species of impersonal elementals, but only 3 of these classes have any influence upon mediums and spiritualistic phenomena. The lowest of these in terms of intelligence is the class of cosmic elementals that are generated in the 4 realms of occultism: fire, earth, air, and water. The creatures of this realm have no ability to deceive the medium. They cannot impersonate or imitate anything and have no individuality of their own. The next class of animal elementals are the souls of animal forms of life that are undergoing the magnetic cycle of their existence with the astral world. Burgoyne explains that when any animal dies upon the earth, it undergoes another cycle of life within the karmic spaces of its kind in the astral world. Here it evolves the forces and the conditions to be utilized for its next incarnation. These souls, especially those of domesticated animals, frequently become attached to human beings on earth with whom they have some peculiar magnetic affinity or to whom they become attached during their external life. Burgoyne says it is these beings that become the most innocent instruments of fraud when they respond to the desires of the medium or to the secret wish of the circle of those who consult the medium. He says that the answers given to the medium will always respond to the secret desire which the animal elemental perceives in the mental sphere of the inquirer. Mediums who become instruments of this class of intelligence are those of unbounded personal egotism. In Burgoyne's words, the obliging, imitative soul of the animal elemental feels the full force of the medium's egotistical thought desire and immediately responds thereto and fulfills this mental idea. Therefore, the medium can be deceived. No matter who they claim to be, they will always correspond to the ideal image of the personage existing in the medium's mind. Even Jesus Christ and Buddha have been impersonated by impersonal controls who easily deceive the medium. Burgoyne's conclusion is that mediums can actually be controlled by the astral souls of domestic animals, chiefly dogs, and that nearly half of mediums who call themselves business clairvoyants and test mediums are controlled by various kinds of animal elementals or spooks. The third class of elemental spirits or spooks are the magnetic elementals. These creatures are too bright and ethereal to be guilty of fraud. They are planetary in nature, but do not belong to the physical planet. They do not and cannot control mediums who are in the trance state. Human elementaries make up category 2 of Burgoyne's classification of invisible sources. He describes these as the animal souls of depraved, wicked mortals who have sunk beneath the human plane and thus caused the separation of their divine soul from their conscious individuality. In general, he says they are evil magicians and sorceresses who are far more numerous than civilized society has any conception of. He calls them magnetic vampires who prolong their vicious existence by sapping the lifeblood of their victims. They impersonate anything and everything and try to push mediums into all kinds of depravity. Their chief characteristic is obsession. Ultimately, they are drawn into the magnetic orb that he calls the dark satellite and eventually made extinct. Category 3 is where Burgoyne places disembodied shells, the magnetic forms of those who have lived, died, and been buried upon the earth. They hover around the graves of the corpses to which they are bound, and as these decompose, the magnetic shell or phantom also dissolves. They cannot be drawn away from the grave or made to answer any mediumistic purpose. The last category is what Burgoyne calls the mesmeric influence of living individuals. He concludes that it is evident that any spirit medium will feel and to some extent respond to the mesmeric will of a potent, positive, magnetic mind.